Welcome back to the program. If you're just joining us, this is the Sunday edition right on KTN News. It's exactly 10 minutes past the hour. We're discussing everything to do with the referendum, but also we're still keeping a keen eye on the Migori senatorial by-election. We have a senior political reporter, Chris Dairu, there for us. I'm going to link up with him shortly. And our reporter, Abu Bakr Abdullahi, is on the streets right here in the capital, Nairobi, trying to gather some views from Kenyans with regards to this referendum. Earlier on, we had played some of the sound bites of those who are pro and against this referendum that everybody's talking about. And one man that has surprised so many, especially within the opposition circles, is none other than Deputy President William Ruto. Yesterday, he made an about-turn, a U-turn, with regards to the referendum. Let's listen in to what he had to say.
Mnataka turudi tena twende tuseme sijui nani hakupata kiti gani, ati kwa sababu huyu hakupata hii tutengenezee kiti moto, sijui mwingine tutengenezee kiti gani, sijui mwingine tutengenezee, na hawa wananchi milioni 45 watatengenezewa yao siku gani? Referendum sisi tunaunga mkono, walete mambo ya referendum. Kuna wale wanataka mzigo ipunguzwe kwa sababu punda amechoka. Kuna wengine wanataka mzigo iongezwe na vyeo iongezwe. Hiyo grupu yote waende wazungumuze. Wakisha kubaliana, wakubaliane tena tarehe ngapi wanataka hiyo kura ya maoni ifanywe.
That is Deputy President William Ruto there speaking yesterday. In studio, I still have Dismas, Mark and Hesbon. Dismas, let me begin with you. And from a political risk analyst point of view, is this some sort of a strategy from the Deputy President?
It's a very good strategy because from a logical perspective, for the longest time, the Deputy President had indicated that having a referendum is not a priority. The priority is working on Wanjiku's socioeconomic status, which in my view is what we are supposed to be embracing. Because out of all these proposals, nobody has indicated that they're going to be working on our socioeconomic status. Nobody's talking about how we are going to be managing our economy. So he's done it very well. But from a logical perspective, he scores very well, and also from a political perspective, because he knew one thing for a fact, that he was going to be isolated, he was going to be cornered, and he was going to maintain his reputation. Because you remember during the last referendum, again, he was on record as having opposed that referendum. So in my view, he's taken a very good position, and he left his sycophants and supporters surprised. Because you see, before he spoke, all the other politicians who spoke, I will not be surprised if Raila Odinga is attending a funeral today and he says no to the referendum. Again, all his supporters and sycophants, again, will do a U-turn.
And so it's about individuals more than the relations.
It's about individuals. Because, you know, these politicians are holding the nation hostage. And that's the tragedy with Wanjiku and Mora. That whatever Raila Odinga says, we take it to the bank. Whatever Ruto says, we take to the bank. But at this stage, one must give President Kenyatta a pat on the back. Despite Georgia Aladwa trying to prod him, saying that you need to be president for life, we need to create for you more opportunities, he said in black and white that I'm not interested. God has given me the opportunity to run the nation for 2 terms. When I'm done, I'm going home. Now, we need all other leaders to declare their interest so that we know, are they pushing us to the referendum because they're serving their selfish interests? For instance, Mark has indicated that a number of the governors who are leaving office will be supporting this referendum, not because they want to work on our debts or address the issue of maize farmers in Rift Valley, but because they're looking for soft landing spots. You know, right now there are lords and kingpins in their villages with those flags. So the prospect that after 2022, they'll actually be buying fuel, that they'll be buying their own car, that they'll be buying airtime makes them shiver. And let's also look at what Musalia Mudavadi and Wetangula have indicated, that before we go to this referendum, let's have a national dialogue. And this national dialogue is going to be very useful. Because right now we're in this crisis because of these 2,800 elected leaders. Some of them are MCAs. They do not know what devolution is. They don't know the impact of that 8% of these budget cuts. They do not know. So we need to have a national dialogue whereby that maize farmer in Rift Valley, the ones who are beating up our senators the other day, would be given the opportunity to speak. Because it's very clear that our elected leadership today they're shooting in the dark. They have no clue of what they're supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Because if they knew what they were supposed to be doing, we would not be talking about these referendums.
Yes, I think we've talked about that earlier. Let's shift our focus back to the Deputy President. And Mark, there's one viewer here, Julius Basweti Amacha, who says, William Ruto is a cornered man. He realized that the waves of the referendum are too strong to oppose. Then he joined the bandwagon suit. His mind and soul will oppose it. Wait and see.
Well, you know, the thing about what the Deputy President has done, you realize he supported a referendum, but he's not supported any particular cause for a referendum. He literally said, let them sit and talk. So it's a very clever move, by the way. Number one, it is a commitment to a referendum, but he's not committed to which referendum. You understand? It's like saying, will you take me out on a date? Yes, but you are not saying when, okay? So it can be in a year, in 2 years, in 3 years. So that's what he's done. And this is classic misdirection. And on Ruto's part, he's being very clever. The misdirection is in this. That for as long as the debate is about debt, is about 8% fuel, is about how the economy is doing, it's about China in this country, then his prospects of becoming president become very thin, because his legacy is completely tied with the 10 years that Uhuru Kenyatta will have. Now, when you misdirect people to continue arguing and fighting about a referendum, then you buy yourself a new lease of life. And then what do you do after you do such a misdirection? There are two things that you gain. Number one, there's a tide you can ride. Now, what is the tide? Whichever of the questions become the question to be answered, whether it is kupunguza mizigo or kuongeza eight super governors, if we'd call them that, then you choose a side. Whichever side he will choose, whether he's against it or for it, he will become the kingpin of that movement. So that gives him an opportunity to ride the wave of political relevance for the next 3-4 years, because everyone will be whining and dining him and talking to him to try and convince him either to support the super governor selection or to punguza mizigo, whichever it is, William Ruto will be relevant. So that's important. The other thing that becomes very important for him is, I think he has learned. When Raila Odinga went to Naivasha before the passing of the 2010 constitution, in his mind he was sure that he would be the president of the republic. He was so close to power, he was sure. And therefore he shot down the idea of having prime ministers, because in his imagination, come 2012, Raila Odinga would be the man of the hour. But as fate would have it, he was usurped by two upstarts called Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. And Raila Odinga since learned. William Ruto may have learned the same thing, that if he supports a referendum, and indeed there is an expansion of cabinet, make no mistake, when those positions are created, he will not say, I did not support this referendum, I don't want any part of it. So this is a very clever strategic move on the part of the deputy president from a PR perspective, and making sure the narrative of the country is towards his direction from his own survival. You know, so he's quite clever in what he has done, and Kenyans need to see that.
Hesbon, Kenyans need to see that, according to Mark. And from his own point of view, the two names that he kept on mentioning, William Ruto and Raila Odinga, it seems even this referendum is still pegged. If it's going to happen, it's still pegged on these two individuals. I mean, when can we have an issue-based referendum where it's going to address the interest of the common mwananchi out there, rather than, serving the interest of these people in the political class?
I think we'll have that space when the media becomes a lot more serious in terms of, holding these political leaders to account and using the Constitution as the backdrop upon which all the other contentious issues about the referendum are looked at. And coming back to the Deputy President, I think it's a masterstroke. You look at what his rivals were doing. Essentially, they had a springboard, and the Deputy President had given them, a very easy target to aim at by portraying him as change the Constitution movement. And now that he has decided to come out and say, I'm not against the referendum, he has essentially deflated that springboard. And we are moving to a space where, from my own opinion, we're going to have very solid discussions. Because if you listen to the Deputy President yesterday, what he's saying is that let us have a referendum. And what he has been saying consistently is that we don't need a referendum if it is about rewarding people. And I think he has used the phrase wadosi. So to what extent is this referendum going to help the ordinary mwananchi? And he talked about that the people who are advocating for a referendum because they need to reward themselves can sit down with the people who are advocating for a referendum that will address the interests of the ordinary mwananchi. And then we'll have, solid questions. And because they will be subjected to the common mwananchi, I sit in a position where I'm looking at the common mwananchi going for that will benefit them. And you can easily attribute that to the Deputy President, because consistently he's been talking about that we don't need a referendum for a few select leaders to bounce back from the twilight of their political careers or to bounce back after serving 2 terms as governors. But it is also impossible to have that kind of a referendum unless there is something you're giving the political class. So I'm sure that discussion is going to be a give and take, that this is the extent to which the mwananchi is going to benefit, and the media and the civil society and people who occupy, privileged spaces to articulate these things must articulate these things in a way that the public understands, that it is not just about rewarding politicians. It is also an opportunity that if politicians have to get something out of it, probably they should get 10% and we should get 90% out of the process. And as a champion of that, mwananchi,
yes.
I think with that people are calling a U-turn, I think is turning out to be a decision that I would call a masterstroke.
And of course, as much as we are talking about the mwananchi there, as much as you're saying the media and the civil society have a role, I think it's up to Kenyans also to try and de-associate these individuals from the call for referendum. Now, there's something interesting from all these observations. We've seen, of course, the U-turn by the Deputy President yesterday, but we're seeing a very disinterested kind of a president. And I'm speaking about President Uhuru Kenyatta. What do you read in that?
Well, the president may seem disinterested, but the president is very keen, because for him his primary concern is his legacy. And he has said times above number that he's not interested in just politics for the sake of politics. He wants people to focus on the development agenda. He said that as late as yesterday, when a lot indicated to him that we need to create a position for you, but indicated in black and white that I'm not interested in another position. I'm interested in a legacy, a solid legacy. So for him, he has indicated it in black and white. And in any event, as a president who is about to leave office in the next 4 years, he shouldn't even be seen to be taking a side in a very proactive manner. Because you see, right now, he's got the deputy president in his stable, and he also got a Raila Odinga in his stable. All of them are just dancing to his tune. So it may not be appropriate for him to take a position or make a position, because as soon as he does that, then he'll be offering the deputy president or Raila Odinga a lot of fodder for propaganda, which is not necessary.
Mark, I'm going to come to you shortly, but for now, let me just cross over to the Central Business District. Understand that's where our reporter Bakar Abdullahi is on standby for us, ready to get some views or point of view from Kenyans themselves with regards to the referendum, something that, of course, many are talking about, especially in the political class. We've almost discussed that exhaustively. But for now, let me now cross over to Abu Bakar. Abu Bakar, good morning.
Good morning, Yusuf. Remember, if this referendum debate goes on and takes position, it will be the 3rd referendum the country will be experiencing. At the backdrop, of course, what happened in 1969, the first referendum, and the second referendum that gave us the current 2010 constitution, a constitution that legal experts and analysts have described as a progressive and liberal one. Even as politicians say this will have a direct effect on Kenyans, what do Kenyans think? And on this segment of the show, I'm joined by Kenyans on the streets. And to start us off, let me talk to this gentleman. Thanks for talking to us here on KTN News. If you could kindly tell us your name and what you think of the referendum.
Thank you very much. My name is Mr. Evans Charles Okumu. I support the referendum issue because if you look at the country the way we are now, it looks like things are at a standstill. But myself, on my personal opinion, I really need to be changed, particularly from the presidential system, we go back to the parliamentary system of governance. Mostly because you find that the presidential system that we have been using has got a lot of post-election violence. So we want a situation whereby when people goes to election, then everybody is a winner. Then maybe the person who becomes number one gets something, number two gets something, everybody comes on board.
You say you want an election where everybody is a winner. People contest so that one wins and another one loses. Do you envision, in your own, therefore, suggestion that you want positions shared amongst parties, communities?
Myself, I will only be happy when people go to election. Election is supposed to bring the country together. But the situations we have been having on the past, after the election, there are a lot of problems. There's post-election violence. But my prayer is that we go back to the system of parliamentary system whereby we have got the Prime Minister, the President, and other leaders. So that after the end of the election, everybody comes on board. There's no much or too much of opposition and separation where people lose their lives and all that.
And of these positions, do you think they should come through election, through the ballot, or negotiated ways?
Everything should come through the ballot. Maybe the president should be elected by the people directly, but now the prime minister should be elected in a college, so that at least peace, we get a long solution for peace in this particular country, because we can only be stable whenever there's peace. And peace if election is done in not when the governance we are using, the system of governance we are using is not proper, then it causes the country not to be stable. There's no peace. I really support the referendum and let all Kenyans join us in this particular fight.
Okay, let me bring in this gentleman who is standing here to the conversation. If you'll start by telling us your name and what you think of the proposed referendum.
Oh, my name is James Omoyo Magati. I think we should change the constitution by changing the referendum. It should be done. We need to reduce overrepresentation by reducing nominated MPs. It's a wastage. We pay a lot to them, but then it's as good as overrepresented. And we should even reduce the number of counties such that we are able to reduce the amount we are paying to the government.
And what kind of an impact will these reduced numbers have?
Oh, we will pay less, so we will save more for other projects that are constructive to the nation. Yes.
Therefore, the issue that you are supporting is on the representation.
Yes, we want to reduce the cost. Some people they can do more to us than now when every person takes a very simple role in the same government, when one can do 2, 3, 4 roles and pay the same amount instead of having to pay several and doing a very small job for us.
One last question to you. Does this also involve the merging of counties together to achieve what you say is a reduced number?
Yes, that should be the case. Matching small counties to join big counties so that we have one big county and we maybe have one senator, one governor, to reduce the 3 or 4 that we have in all those areas.
Thanks for talking to us. And finally, let me get your colleague also to the conversation. The question of a referendum, when do you think should it happen, if at all you believe it needs to happen?
Thank you very much. I'm Eric Milavi, a resident of Nairobi. I want to voice up on the referendum issue. I'm fully behind it. But however, this is not the right time to have the referendum. We need to have a referendum prior to elections. But the issues that are bedeviling Kenyans are the same issues that Kenyans faced during the founding president. And his son currently is facing the same challenges. The issue of corruption, ethnicity, and tribalism. These are the issues that Kenyans are struggling with day to day. I would be glad if the referendum addresses these issues other than how some individuals will get positions at the expense of Kenyans.
There is a proposition by Gatundu South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria that the referendum should happen alongside the elections of 2022 to cut cost. What do you think of that?
I don't support that one because these are two different functions and two different events. We have the general election and the referendum. The referendum is about the people's opinion on a particular issue, which should precede the general election.
And should we have a referendum? What kind of an impact will it have?
Economically, there is going to be an impact because there is resources going to be spent on the referendum. And again, we must fully satisfied that the positions we are creating will impact economically or improve the life of living of every Kenyan.
Gentlemen, thanks for talking to us. Of course, Yusuf there, Kenyans seem to be in unison in the call of having a referendum. The question for them being the number of representation that is there and the economic cost that this will have if the numbers are reduced. This is from, of course, what Kenyans are telling us, but this is a heated debate, a heated conversation that we will keep talking about, and of course engaging Kenyans of what they think about in terms of devolving the conversation and the show to where they are. From me, Abubakar Abdullahi, back to you in the studios, Yusuf.
Well, thanks, Abubakar Abdullahi. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Of course, from the reaction there from Kenyans, it's a mixed bag of reaction. There are those who are in support and there are those who are against the call for a referendum. But the elephant in the room has everything to do with the wage bill that Abubakar there has talked about with some Kenyans there, which stands at a whopping 675 billion Kenya shillings. Then if you add the 600 billion Kenya shillings Kenya loses through corruption every year, that gets to about 1.something trillion Kenya shillings. So, is the referendum going to happen? That is the big question that we have been discussing since early this morning. But now, allow me to switch gears to something else that is of national importance, which has everything to do with the maize politics. Even as President Uhuru Kenyatta angrily, we saw a few days ago, talking to the Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri, sounding a warning at the same time to the National Cereals and Produce Board with regards to the payment to farmers. All that after this very short break. Of course, we're watching the Sunday edition right here on KTN News. We'll be right back. Stay with us.